of this class is how we figure out our life's purpose and what we're doing here. So that question is based on a premise that every person has a purpose, which I was heavily challenged once upon a time by a certain Rosh Yeshiva. It was intense. So let's just clarify that first, and then we're going to speak about 5 steps to figure out what our purpose is. Okay? So in the Midbar, when Bnei Yisrael were there, Moshe Rabbeinu complains to Hashem, and he says that they're asking for meat, asafsuf. They demanded meat instead of the mun, and he says, I can't handle these people. I have to carry them like a mother carries her child, and they're complaining, and I can't. I rather die than continue and witness their inevitable punishment because of these people. So Rashi says, where did Hashem ever tell Moshe that he's obligated to carry them like a mother carries her child? I mean, Moshe is tiding Hashem, how can you make me do this? I can't do it. Rashi says, whoever Hashem told him to lead them through. Who said he had to take care of them and all of their complaints? Never says it anywhere. So Rashi digs up a pasuk. But Yerucham Levavitz answers as follows. He says that really Hashem never told Moshe. He never told Moshe directly that this is what he had to do. Except Moshe, through introspection, was able to recognize that this was his mission. That, however it was, we'll learn how to do that, okay? But he was able to realize that his tafkid in this world was to go ahead and take care of Bnei Yisrael, like a mother takes care of a child, and therefore even every little complaint, okay, you need meat, you need this, I got to take care of everything. That's how Moshe knew it. And once Moshe recognized that this was his mission, it was as if Hashem actively commanded him to go ahead and do it. Okay? So once we go ahead and figure out what our mission is, then we're going to have to act based on it. Like the mission says in Maseches Sanhedrin, that Adam Arishon, was created yechidi, was created singular. Why? For a person to realize, b'shvili nivra olam, that the whole world is for me, meaning I have a mission here. Everything here is for me to help me fulfill my mission, and therefore I have to go ahead and figure that out. So we should all feel very empowered that we're here, and we could delete all the other 7 billion people that are in the world, or more than that. And we have a mission, and we're able to go ahead and fulfill it. All right, so how do we figure it out? So the olden days, in the times of the Nevi'im, it was pretty easy. The Vilna Gaon writes in Mishlei that you'd go to the Navi would look at you and tell you what your mission was. It was as simple as that. Okay, you didn't have to worry about it, you didn't have to, no trial and error. You went to the Navi and he would go ahead and tell you that. Then the Vilna Gaon writes that nowadays we don't have Nevuah, so still this message comes through Ruach HaKodesh. Every person could somehow tap into Ruach HaKodesh. It expresses itself in different ways, but through Ruach HaKodesh, we're able to go ahead and figure it out. Now, some people have it more easily readable than others. For example, the Chidah writes that the Alshich HaKadosh, he was a great darshaner, right? And he wanted to take part of an inner circle of Mekubalim that the Arizal had. Okay, he wanted to get into the Arizal's learning program. And he got rejected. Believe it or not, okay? He got rejected from the program. So I mean, the Alshich was the Alshich HaKadosh, right? How could he not get into the Arizal's program? So he begged the Arizal, please explain it to me. So the Arizal said, because I see in your neshama that your tafkid in this world is to be someone who darshans, goes around and darshans from the psukim and inspires people, and therefore I don't want to take that away from you by putting you into this group, and therefore that's not what you should be doing. So therefore you have a mission and you have to go ahead and continue doing what you're doing. So we have to realize that certain things sometimes, and we'll see now in a minute, that we don't get into, or something doesn't work out, might be related to our mission. Doesn't necessarily mean just because someone else has something or we think that something is good that we have to go ahead and do that and be involved in that, because that might not be our purpose, that might not be our mission. Okay. Method number 1. How do you figure it out? The answer is to look at your talents. To look at the gifts that Hashem gave you. Okay, this is highlighted in the scariest way, I think the best way, in a story in Sefer Malachim, where Achav was the king of all the Shvatim besides for Yehuda and Binyamin. And Achav wanted a vineyard that was right next to his palace. It was owned by someone named Navos. And Navos had this vineyard. It was part of his family for generations after generations. And Navos didn't want to sell it to the king. So Achav complained to his wife. Anyone remember what his wife's name was? Izebel. Very good. Izebel, she was as wicked as he. And Izebel, she couldn't see her son. Her husband was depressed, lying in bed, staring against the wall. Couldn't get up. He couldn't get his vineyard. So she staged an entire thing that Navos rebelled against the king. It wasn't true, but she made up this whole story that Navos rebelled against the king. So they brought out Navos into the courtyard and they stoned him for punishment for rebelling against the king. So the Medrash asks a question that we're not allowed to ask. The Medrash asks, what did Navos do to deserve this? I mean, he just wanted to keep the vineyard that belonged to his father, great-grandfather, all the way back in his family, right? What did he do wrong that all of a sudden he deserved to be killed? So the Medrash says, because Bnei Yisrael used to go up, Aliyah L'Regel, right, to the base of Mikdash, and Navos had a beautiful voice. And there was one year that Navos didn't go up and lead the tzibur with his beautiful voice to get closer to Hashem, with song, with tefillah, etc. And because he didn't use his voice for avodas Hashem, therefore he no longer deserved to be alive. Scary medrash. But as it says, meaning he had a tafkid. His voice was given for him to help elevate other people, and once he didn't use that, he no longer deserved to be in this world. The Shalom Shadran used to highlight this with a mashal. He said a father and a little son walk into a bank, and they're observing that the bank teller is, money's being given into him. He's dishing out money, and the kid's looking there. Wow, that guy is so rich. Look, you see how much money? He must be a millionaire. So much money the guy's giving out. So the father said, no, it could be that you and I are richer than he. It's just that his job, when he gets the money, is to give it out. But it's not his. So he said this exact same thing, he said, is with our talents and our brachos that we have in our world. Hashem gave it to us, right? It doesn't mean necessarily that I'm better than the other guy, or I'm this or I'm that. It just means that I have more of an obligation to go ahead and distribute my brachos, to use my brachos in order to go ahead and fulfill my tafkid. So the first thing that a person always has to try to figure out is, what is he good at? What are his talents? What did he get that Hashem gave him? And how to, and what to do with that? And that could be with midos also. Some people are very expressive, so they're good at giving gratitude. Others are they have to protect more themselves from other things, so they're more reserved. Every person has certain things that they were created, and you have to look how to take those and hone in on those virtues and build them to the greatest fact. Yeah, this is what nowadays is called positive psychology, right? But it's already clear in Chazals from hundreds and thousands of years ago already, that this idea that we have to hone in on what we're good at, what we were given, what Hashem created and gave us, and use those things. Okay, we have to work on other things also, but we should try to make those things even stronger, because there's a reason Hashem gave it to us. He gave it to us because that is what we're supposed to use in order to fulfill our unique tafkid in this world. Okay, number 2 is, what is your passion? Okay, what do you like doing? Rabbeinu Bachai talks about this regarding choosing a profession. People ask, how do I know what to do for a living? So Rabbeinu Bachai says you have to look at the animals, right? Animals were created a certain way. Some have long necks, some have big mouths, in order to make parnasa, right? That's how they get their food. They use their animal structure in order to go ahead and survive, right? So the same thing is when we're trying to figure out our purpose in the world, we have to notice what do we like doing? What character traits were given to us that we enjoy. So a person might enjoy chesed, right? If a person has a netiya towards chesed, there's a reason he has a netiya towards chesed. Okay, it doesn't mean that if you don't do chesed. But if somebody has a netiya towards chesed, that means that part of his mission in the world is to go ahead and do that. Some people enjoy learning more. Some people enjoy speaking to people and listening to people more. There's a reason we were given those midos, those passions. We're supposed to try to hone in on those passions and use them for our tafkid. And Netziv speaks about this in Bamidbar Perek Tezvav. He speaks about this at length. And he says, obviously, learning Torah and doing mitzvahs sometimes helps us figure out what those things are, but we have to notice what our passions are. Some people are going to have certain areas of Torah that they like better learning than other things. That's because maybe your tafkid is to get clarity in that area more than others. So we have a passion. No one should say, I have a passion that's not good. We were given passions. I like things that you don't like. There's a reason for it. Okay? Now, we have to try to figure out what those passions are, identify them, and then try to figure out how we could use that to fulfill our tafkid, and to remember that the reason I was given that passion was in order to fulfill that tafkid. The Netziv says, though, that the key is to make sure it's in this framework of halacha. You know what I'm saying? If you enjoy beating people up, that's not your tafkid. Okay? So it's you have to know and keep it within halacha, in the realms of halacha, in the broad realms of halacha and of Torah. Okay. Number 3. There's a biggie. Okay? Where have you been? Meaning, what experiences have you had in your life? This is highlighted by a Rashi in Sefer Shmuel Aleph, Perek Yud Zayin. Talks about David and Goliath. Goliath is coming to kill the Bnei Israel, and everyone's scared. Who's going to go ahead and stand up against Goliath, right? So little David comes and says, "Oh, I'm going to do it." And they all look at him like, "Oh, come on. That's ridiculous." Right? So then David HaMelech defends himself, says, "No, I could do it." And he talks about the fact that once upon a time, there was a lion and there was a bear that came. He was a shepherd taking care of the flock. And the animals came to kill the flock. And he was able to get rid of these animals and save the flock. So like Rashi explains that David HaMelech was saying to him, there must have been a reason that happened to me. Why in the world would I go through an experience where there's a bear and a lion? It must be that it was there in order to show me that I have the capabilities of going ahead and saving the Jewish people from someone like Goliath. Meaning some experience that he had in the past, maybe he had no idea why that was happening at the time, was something that occurred to him in order to build him for the future. And that is something that we all have to recognize. We all have pasts, some more colorful than others. Okay? Anything that we went through in our lives, any family types, any communities that we live in, anything that we ever went through is not to knock it and it's not good, and that's not what it's about. Anything we had, even challenges that we had, is there for our future. There are different things that I'm able to relate to nowadays because of things that I did in my past. Now, why I did it back then, I don't know why. I wasn't thinking about it. It just happened. It was part of society, whatever it is. But now I'm able to relate to things differently at my stage. God forbid, okay, obviously this is much bigger. Someone goes through a certain trauma or a certain abuse or something that ever happens to them at some point in their lives. One of the reasons that might have happened is because later on they could be helpful to someone else that has that experience, right? Different things that we have, we might not get it at our age right now. Some of it you might already have experienced. You know why it happened. But if you don't know, hold it in your pocket. But that might be in the future and say, "Oh, I could do that. I know, I've been there. I've done that. I can help this person. I know how to navigate this. Okay, I know what it's like to be a kid in this thing. I can help my child now better." Right? Where their experience that we've gone through are there. They happen to us in order to help us fulfill our ultimate tafkid in this world. And that's something to reflect on and to think about that and try to see how we can go ahead and help people or help ourselves or help our children, help our families, or just fulfill in general our tafkid in the world. So that's number 3. Okay, so we have talent, passion, and where we've been. Okay, number 4, where are you now? Okay, number 4 is where are you now? We're going to all land in different places. It might be right now here in this room. It might be on Shabbos in a different place. It might be in the summer in a different place. It might be at a vacation in a different place. It might be in a college next year in a different place. We will all land in different places throughout our lives, and those are going to change, okay? Every time we are in a certain place, there's a reason why we are in that certain place. That is also related to our tafkid. And what greater source to that than Megillah Esther, where the Megillah talks about how Mordechai b'chol yom vayom hisalech lifnei chatzar beis hanashim. While Esther was in the palace, every single day Mordechai would walk by to see what was going on with her. Now, why did it go on? He knew what was going on over there. Why did he have to check in every day? So the Rashi explains, the Medrash says that Mordechai said it can't be. It doesn't make any sense that Hashem would take Tzaddikus Esther and put him by Achashverosh just so Achashverosh could give in to his lust. That didn't make sense. It had to be that it was for the point of saving the Jewish people. So that's what it meant. Every day he was checking in because he wanted to see how the story was evolving, how it was unraveling, because he knew that her position in the palace had to have a point. It had to have a tafkid to go ahead and take care of it. And later on in the Megillah, when Esther didn't want to make the moves and try to convince Achashverosh to save the Jewish people, the Megillah says, Mordechai says, and who knows if for this reason he got some achus. That this is why you were here. He tells her that. I said, that's your tafkid. There's a reason that you're there.
He also says we don't really need you anyway.
No, it says, and if you're not going to do it, there's no point to you. Meaning, if the whole point of your purpose in this world is to be there, and then you're not going to fulfill this tafkid, so then you're out. You're gone. Right? It's not gonna happen. Meaning, whatever position, whatever place that we are in, there's a reason that we're there, and we have to try to think about why was I put here? Why was I put in this specific university? Why was I put in this specific community? Why was I put in this specific summer thing? What am I supposed to do? This is here in order. Step 4 is that's going to help us fulfill our tafkid in this world. Okay, number 5, and this is the one that gets thrown around a lot, and that's why I'm leaving it for the last one. Okay. And this is actually the Vilna Gaon's explanation on the entire Sefer Yonah. Okay, if anyone has a chance to learn the Sefer Yonah with the Gra, the whole thing is about this. It's about he learns that the whole Sefer is about the neshama's journey in this world. It's this fascinating understanding, a much deeper understanding than the simple story of Yonah. And he writes that one's purpose may be very much within the area that he stumbles. Okay? The area that a person has difficulty with. There's a reason that he has that. He writes even the sin, maybe, the chataim that he most desires to commit. His tafkid is to go ahead and conquer that bad habit or temptation. Meaning the reason that he has that is not something that a person should turn around and say, oh, I hate myself for having this, and why do I do this? If a person stumbles in a certain area, the reason he might have that temptation, that challenge, is because part of his tafkid is to go ahead and conquer that. Okay? Now, this is not against the previous 4 methods that we discussed, but rather, when a person, for example, let's say he decides his mission is to be involved in chesed, right? So it's because his passion is there, he has the talents, he has the place, the experience, whatever it is, okay? So now, there are many steps within doing chesed that he's going to have to work on his self-improvement. Because he might be that he gets angry quickly. So if a person gets angry quickly, while he's doing his chesed, he's going to have to try to conquer that bad midah, right? In any area that we ever are going to be in life, our midos are going to come up in very, very significant ways, specifically in marriage, 100% that way. We get challenged in very, very strong ways, or any relationship that we're all in, especially the closer we get to the person, the more the challenges come up in our midos. But if we see that there's an area that we stumble in, so part of figuring out what our tafkid is the Gra writes, is to go ahead and try to conquer that midah. Okay? So we mentioned 5 different things that we have to look at. Okay, they're all heavy, by the way. You can spend a lot of time in each one. What is our talent? What brachos do we have in our life? 2, what is our passion? 3, where were we? What experience do we have in our lives? 4, where are we right now? And 5 is what area do we struggle with? But that is something that we have to try to go ahead and conquer. Okay. Finally, how do you know if you made the right decision? Okay, you decided this is my tafkid. Now, how do you know? How do you know that it's not your Yetzer Hara telling you or something else? Like, how do you know if you make the right decision? So, Rav Ari Levin, whoever has not read this book, it's obligatory reading, a tzaddik in our time. Okay, you'll learn a lot about the history of the state of Israel before it became a state. Rav Ari Levin was the tzaddik in Yerushalayim, really was involved in chesed all day and all night. He used to go to the jails and help people. He went to the hospitals. Miskav Ladach was actually Miskav Ladach Hospital, which was a hospital for people who had leprosy. And no one wanted to visit those people. And he'd go in there and help them. He was a chesed of the highest level, and he was known as a tzaddik of Yerushalayim. Okay. After he died, it was found, he was Yashiv's father-in-law. Rabbi Levin was Yashiv's father-in-law. After he died, they found manuscripts upon manuscripts of his notes, basically books that he wrote as an explanation to Mishnayos. And everyone realized how big of a gadol he was. He was mamish huge. But during his lifetime, he wasn't looked at as like, oh, the gadol ador. He was like the gadol of chesed. Okay? So, listen to this, guys, and don't try this at home. Okay? Rabbi Levin, when he got married, he was a budding gadol ador. So his wife wasn't so happy that he was involved in chesed all day long. Here, she married a guy that was supposed to be learning and paskening shaylas and writing svarim. Okay, which he did and no one knew. But he was supposed to be the gadol ador and learning. So she had a taina. So what do you do when you have a taina on someone? Bring him to Beis Din. So she brought her husband to the Leshem. The Leshem was... his last name was Rav Yashiv. He was Rav Yashiv's grandfather. Okay, he was the biggest makubal at the time. So they decided they're going to go to Shlomo Yashiv to ask him, what's the deal? So the Leshem said as follows. He said, look, in earlier times when there were Nevi'im, like I quoted earlier in the beginning, so each person can know what his tafkid was in the world because the Navi would go ahead and tell him. Since Nevuah is no longer here, so no one knows exactly the purpose of each person. And he said, I only know this, that we have a Masorah, we have a tradition, that whoever is involved with something and sees success in what he's doing, in his deeds, and finds spiritual satisfaction in what he's doing, that's a sign from Shemayim that this is what he's supposed to be doing. Okay? And therefore he said, since Rav Aryeh is seeing such great success in all his acts of chesed, this is an indication from Hashem that he should dedicate himself to these things, even if it detracts from his learning. Okay? So this is one way of testing. Am I being matzliach in what I am doing? Now, that doesn't mean the second something gets hard for a day, you chuck it. Okay? Obviously, you have to work through it, you have to try to understand, and you might have challenges, you have to go try to get going, okay? But one of the indicators that things are working, that this is your tafkid, is if it's actually working. Now, the opposite of this is where people have the biggest nisyonos. There are many people that get stuck in certain things for very long periods of time when it's not working. Okay? Someone could say, well, I spent a lot of time in school for this, and I spent so many hours and so much money, and 10 years down the line, and you're still not making a parnasa from it. So I say, well, maybe you should switch jobs. Oh, but I can't, because you know how long I went to school for this? My friend, it's not working. We have to realize at a certain point, both in Ruchnius and in Gashmius, that when things aren't working, and you did proper due diligence to understand why it's not working, etc., are we just being, negligent, or it's real, to, as they say in the secular world, to move your cheese. You got to know, it's a book, whatever, not for now, you got to know to go ahead and move the item that you're shooting for, because maybe it's the wrong thing. But if you're going ahead and you're succeeding, and you're seeing that Hashem is helping you out, He's helping you out in what you're doing, so then that's one indicator, I guess, that the Leshem said, that this is something that is your tafkid. Okay, so just to review very, very quickly, every person has a tafkid in this world. And we have to recognize that that's first base. We got to realize that we have a mission. Every single person, forget about everyone else. We individually have a mission in this world. In the olden days, it was very convenient. The Navi used to go ahead and do this. Now that he didn't, we need other methods through Ruach HaKodesh of what that is. We mentioned 5 of them: talents, passion, where we were, where we are, and what we struggle with. Okay? How do we know that we're doing the right thing? So one indicator the Leshem said is, are we being matzliach and feeling spiritual satisfaction in what we're doing? And Be'ez Hashem, with these things, okay, and since only highlight, and we did it in 20 minutes, but Be'ez Hashem, going through all these things in a very slow, methodical way, we'll all be zochet to fulfill our tafkid in this world.